My name is Matt Branston. I am the writer, director, and co-producer of Little Bug, starring Martin Freeman and Alexandra Barredo.
Brilliant. I guess, in your own words, what is Little Bug about?
Little Bug is about Laika, she's known as the space dog. She's a dog that the Soviet Union sent into space on, I think, Sputnik 2. Obviously, she died in space, and our film is a true story about the scientist who looked after her, taking her home to spend time with his family. And then the fictional part is sort of how that affects him, his relationship with his daughter, and sort of the tragedy of her dying in space.
Yeah, I mean, I love movies or films rather, where you are trying to figure out what's going on as you watch it, and then at the end it all makes sense. At the end, the low shots and the angles, it all makes sense, right? Yeah. But at first you're wondering, is this a child? Is this no? You later find out, no, it's Laika the dog. I guess what I drew you to Laika the dog story and making a film about them.
Yeah.
Yes.
I forget as well myself. For me, the interesting part of it was I was reading at that point a lot of sort of like art about her, like poetry, book stuff, and that was interesting. That was, I think, what got Martin Freeman on board, is that he also was reading. He'd read a few books and comic books about her. But the thing that really interested me was just this like sort of inherent tragedy of like her whole existence is just so utterly sad. And there's so many pieces of art about. There's a song at Eurovision this year about Laika being alive still, and that's referenced in Guardians of the Galaxy, Laika being alive. And for me, it almost undercuts the sadness of it, the tragedy of it, that Laika didn't get to live. And so for me, it was almost like, how do we talk about trauma and having to face destiny and reality, whatever you want to say, while sort of from a realistic perspective, same way that something like, obviously a lot sadder, but something like Manchester by the Sea deals with grief. It's like, it's not necessarily always an uplifting ending. Yeah. And that's what I like about the ending of Little Bug. Initially we had the text at the start of the film that explained it. But I think our editor, Olive Jones, made, I think, the right decision about it, where he said there's just something that hits you when you realise the truth of it, and it's just absolutely heartbreaking. And then you see the actual video of her, which is one of the only pieces of like stock that we paid for, was because it's so vital to see her and realise that's a real being. The same way that we're all our own dogs, you know, it's just like absolutely heartbreaking for me.
Yeah, like life being used as like a tool for human advancement, quote unquote, right? And that's very tragic to see. And I think that's a brilliant decision to show her at the end, because you are putting her, her point of view of life, the whole film, and then finally, then you have that out of experience. So, okay, well, no, let's put this into context. Yeah. This is what actually happened. I think it's brilliant.
Thank you so much.
I thought the score was incredible. Now
Mackie, great composer.
Yeah, it worked so well, and it looked so stunning. Just talk to me about, I guess, shooting from a dog's point of view. What was that like? Getting the angles right, all of that.
So do you know what the first thing was? And it was all something. I don't mean just keep bringing him up, but the first question Martin Freeman asked me when he came on board was, would we be shooting from a really low angle? Because it's like an actor's worst nightmare to be like shot from like up their nose. I was working with I'm just name dropping everyone who works on the film, but Jake Duncan, who was the cinematographer, who I've worked before on a couple of things, who's just so like intelligent and creative with how he comes up with the shots. And we were speaking about it of sort of, we didn't want it to be a really low angle and sort of disgusting. We want it to be sort of like they're holding up the dog, or you're in front of it, or it's in the cage, or it's on the seat, where it was about sort of capturing sort of almost, as you say, almost a child's perspective. So it wasn't necessarily like, it's something we've all experienced of seeing things from below, the same way that you see like a skyscraper and it feels massive. It felt like a way to capture the enormity of what Laika was going up to. And later on when you see the only time we're not in Laika's perspective is when we're seeing the rocket launch, the archive for the rocket launch. And it felt like if we can pick these shots that are like colourful, saturated, like not washed out, where we see the grain and we see sort of the effect of a 1950s film, but then from the perspective of someone who's scared and small and trying to work out what's happening, it just felt the most potent way to do stuff.
That's brilliant. You mentioned Martin Freeman. I mean, what was it like getting him on board? How did that conversation happen?
I emailed his agent and he said yes.
It was that simple?
Yeah, I emailed his agent, he said yes. I had a conversation with him on the phone. He was really invested in the story of Laika. He really wanted, I think the same way that I did, he really wanted to give Laika as a figure in history, as a living being that we don't think about that much, sort of a way to memorialize her. And I looked back and I couldn't find any films that were sort of like about Laika on Earth.
Yeah.
There are films, this is really embarrassing to know this, but there's like, do you know about Air Bud? Air Bud was the film where the dog played basketball.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
There was a sequel series about his children called Air Buddies.
Okay.
And one of those is Space Buddies, and then Laika's in that film. Anyway,
Yeah.
my point is that I hadn't seen it memorialized before, and so I spoke to Martin, and he was just fully on board with sort of how do you memorialize someone or a thing, like an animal, that has never been memorialized before, and that's what sort of got him invested. And it was a one-day shoot, so it wasn't that difficult for him. I imagine was a big part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. The truth was, all of us who were telling the story wanted to tell a story of Laika specifically.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we were just wanting to make a film for the sake of making a film.
Yeah.
There was some value to, again, dealing with grief in a way that I would like someone to do that for me.
Yeah.
And so it felt like the right thing to do. Also, she looks like my dog.
Oh.
And so it was like, my dog died a couple of years ago.
Oh man, I'm
Thank
sorry
you.
to do that. Yeah.
But it was that thing of just like, again, how do you memorialize a creature that, you can't go to the grave for a dog,
No.
So I've really rambled with this answer.
No, I really appreciate your input into it. I think the gut punch of the film comes at the end in the quote. I forgot exactly what it was, but in terms of, it didn't really help.
Yeah.
There was nothing
So
discoverable.
It was Oleg Gazenko, who was the lead of the whole program, said we did not learn enough to justify the death of the dog.
It's crazy. Oh, yeah.
They're awful. Yeah.
And two ways to think about that. Is there anything enough to justify the death of the dog, right?
That's a really great. I've not thought that. That's a really great read of that.
Yeah. I wanted to just ask you, in terms of just the shoot itself and the whole production, what were some of the challenges you faced, some of the surprises that you faced?
So the first thing, this is like probably a quarter of the budget went on insurance.
Wow.
Because we failed, we didn't get our insurance come through, and then we had like 2 days left to shoot.
Yeah.
This is a really weird one. I'm not going to say this in great detail, but like a tax came in.
Okay.
That like really affected one of the crew members, and they had to leave the production to deal with sort of family stuff that came as a result of this tax. So sort of like, the truth is, it was a really nice production.
Okay.
There were almost no issues.
Yeah.
We were filming in my flat. My landlord showed up in the middle of it, and I had to like smooth it over and get him to leave me alone. But luckily he did. He was very nice about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think in the grand scheme of things, we had a gift that you very rarely get, which is that we were working with people we know. They were all volunteers, honestly.
Yeah.
But we were working with people we know. They wanted to do good work, and they did good work, and we had a great time while doing it. And we make a film that we're really proud of. And so we basically can't ask for more than that.
Brilliant. Yeah, and I think the film speaks for itself in that sense as well.
Thank you so much.
Just final question from myself. How can people come up to date with this, with Little Bug, and with yourself personally?
I have an Instagram account, which is Matthew Branston, MATTHEW, Branston like the pickle. I need to make an Instagram account for the film. I have not done that yet.
Yeah.
The truth is, we've just started our festival run.
Oh, wow.
This is our second festival. We showed at Northeast International, which I won an award for. I won an award for.
Congrats.
Thank you. But hopefully, the best answer is we'll be showing it all over the world soon.
Yeah.
If they let us in. And we'll hope for the best, and people can come and see it there. Follow me on Instagram. I'll be updating stuff with the film.
Yeah.
And follow FILMD.
Thank you so much. I wish you the best of luck with
Thank
Little
you so
Bug,
much. I
man.
appreciate
It's one of those films that's really going to stick with me as well.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, a story which we kind of all know about the space dog. There's various homages, but to have a true memorial, it sticks with you. So thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Really kind of you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Brilliant, man.